Welcome to my Happier course. Now, this Happier course is based on one of my favorite books. This book absolutely changed the trajectory of my life and the 6 people who tag along with me as we travel and adventure and create our own happy lives. So, the book Happier is about learning the secrets to creating daily joy and lasting fulfillment. It's by a man named Tal Ben-Shahar, who was a Harvard professor. And back in 2002, he had been studying happiness and he thought, what a great idea. I'm going to create a happiness course for students at Harvard because I just see all these people who are so stressed out. And a whole 8 people showed up, 2 of which, 25%, quit on it. So I'm sure he must have been very frustrated, but did not give up. The next year, he got 380 students to sign up for the course, and 20% finished saying that this course improves the quality of one's life. So hopefully by me presenting everything that's in this book for you, you too can improve the quality of your life. I know it made such an impact in us and how we perceive the world, how we live, the connections we have, everything we teach in Be the Hero Academy really can be connected back to this book. Okay. So for Tal Ben-Shahar, he eventually ended up with 855 students, and it made it the most popular course in all of Harvard. It's pretty cool. Okay, so let's get into it. The big thing for him was that happiness, not success or accolades, is what he refers to as the ultimate currency. When he created this course, he wanted to make it into a deep dive into grappling with fears, reflecting on your strengths, setting ambitious short-term and long-term goals, and encouraging people to take risks outside and find their stretch zone, which we're going to get into in lessons in the future. But for right now, it was really mostly about not looking for 5 secrets to make you happy or 3 steps to success. He really wanted to help people go through the process of self-understanding. Again, something that we are very passionate about on Be the Hero Academy. And we want you to go deeper and understand your programming, understand the past that shaped your belief, be able to see how these beliefs that you're holding might be getting in the way of your happiness, how to rewire those beliefs, and how to, most importantly, rewire them to a future version of yourself that would make you feel happy, but that happiness probably isn't rooted in money or success or recognition or status. That there is a version of you that can achieve meaningful, fulfilling happiness, but we do have to go through some of these more icky or kind of harder topics like fears, strengths, goals, risks, and what we talked about, stretch zone. So why does this even matter? I think the big reason positive psychology and platforms like Be the Hero Academy are so important. And these are statistics from Tal Ben-Shahar's book back in 2007. So you can imagine this has probably changed a lot since then. But in 2007, rates of depression were 10 times higher than the 1960s. I wanted to look this up, but I forgot to beforehand. I would guess that since 2007, they're probably 10 or 20 times higher. That since 2020, the rate of depression has accelerated exponentially, so which is not good. We're helping you reverse that if you do struggle with depression. But the age for or the average age for the onset of depression back then was 14.5 in 2007 versus in 1960 it was close to 30 years old before people experienced depression. Basically, people didn't used to feel depressed until their the midlife crisis. Now, kids entering high school are often struggling with depression. There's also a study by the American colleges that said 45% of students were so depressed that they had difficulty functioning. That's a lot of people. And a study in Britain showed that in 2005, 36% said they were happy, but back in 1957, 52% said they were happy. Again, I think that number is even lower. And one of the big things I'm hoping through teaching you the book, and in all of our other courses that we do on Be the Hero Academy, is helping you recognize there is a difference between happiness and contentment. Happiness, like we're going to talk about in these next few lessons, is about joy, fulfillment, meaning. You can have bad things happen to you and still be happy. You could also have nothing exciting to look forward to and think, well, this must be happiness. No one else is excited to wake up. I must be happy. This is what everyone else is doing. And until you actually stumble upon a new sense of joy, which it's nice that Victor can talk about this because he struggled with this so much more, that then you can start to have a better sense of perception of what you're searching for when you're saying, hey, I'm trying to be happy. I'm trying to seek positive psychology. We as society, as generations, have so much more money. We are wealthier than any generation in the past. However, we're not actually happier. As long as people believe that their basic material needs had to be met in order for them to lead a fulfilling life, it was easy to explain away unhappiness. Basically, and again, I asked Victor to share his stories more and more about this because when we first stepped into this lifestyle, I read this book, then we kind of started implementing it. I started implementing. He was following along like, sure, dear, yes, dear, whatever, okay, I guess, and wasn't really happy doing it at first. But so much of that, unfortunately, started with minority mindset or coming more from poverty, where for him, for his family, being first generation Mexican Americans, they were so used to struggling in Mexico and barely having enough food and feeling a lot of pride, naturally you should, in being able to provide food and shelter, that in some ways back then, it was easier to be happy because we didn't have all these other options. Having options in a lot of ways has made us less happy. And in order to break that generational trauma in a way, we have to be able to look deeper within ourselves. And it's okay to be grateful. You want to be grateful for having food, your basic needs met. But then once you have that ticked off, that box is checked, you have to think a little bit harder. It takes more work to think of, what would make me happy today? Having options has consequences. And so this book is going to help you work through that. Okay. And it continues to say in this book, but now with the basic needs of many having been met, there's no longer a ready-made justification for discontent. We basically don't understand, why am I not happy if I have everything I need? Because we aren't necessarily taught as children to be self-responsible for our time. It seems that money has just brought us unhappiness, but there is a way out of this. There is a way to rewire your brain or train your brain to help you find the things that make you happy and to kind of keep it on path, because the brain does some weird things. As Gabby coaches in Buddha's Brain course, the brain loves to hijack us, but we can take control of it. So through positive psychology, which is the scientific study of optimal human functioning, it's not, like I said earlier, it's not the promise of 5 easy steps to happiness, 3 secrets of success, or 4 ways to find your perfect lover. It's about more than just that. Okay. So Leonardo da Vinci said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And then Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes said, I would not give a fig for the simplicity on this side of complexity, but I would give my life for the simplicity on the other side of complexity. And really, that is something that we personally, as our family, has experienced in moving into an RV. It just simplified so much of our life for a while. Now, the whole point of this course is not to get you to live in an RV, but it is to take control of your time and to take control of your mind, and then to redirect your time and your thoughts into something more meaningful and fulfilling. Remember, what I'm teaching here in this course is a summarized version of everything that Tal Ben-Shahar puts in the book, and then I'm adding my own commentary on how I've implemented in my life. The Supreme Court Justice Oliver, who I just quoted, talks about how he spent all his time searching and researching and reflecting and laborious testing to find out, like, how do I move from all of this, like, complexities of life into something simple? And that's the exact same thing that we have done in our life. As I'm going to share, in fact, let me share you these slides. Okay. Back in 2012, this is the year when I discovered this book. In 2012, we had a successful business. That's a picture there of Victor with a bunch of the students we taught at our business called Island Tumble. We happened to open that business when I was 20 years old. We were just dating at the time. And we, of course, didn't have kids. We weren't married yet. Victor liked to hang around with me all the time. So I said, hey, why don't we open this business? Mostly because I had already built up a good following teaching gymnastics in the city of Coronado, but I didn't like what I was getting paid. And so I went into the city. I said, hey, I want a cut, to which, of course, the city said, we can't give you a cut of the profits. Like, you're an employee. Like, that's cool. I'll just go open my own business. And so we opened it, 1997. And then that same year, we ended up getting married. 2 years later, we had Danny. We started having kids. We ran that business for almost 20 years, 19 years. And in the process, we bought multiple homes. And that picture in the middle was our house on Sparrow Lake Road that I thought was my dream house. At the time, I thought, we made it. This is it. I've got this business. I'm an entrepreneur. I bring my kids to work. At the time in 2012, well, I had 5 kids at that time. All of my kids had been born, but so I had 5 kids, business, dream house. I mean, like, I had it made. Not only that, like, I was homeschooling my kids. So a lot of times our homeschooling would be like just going to the beach, going to the park. Life was good. I thought, to big extent, this was happiness. I had made it. But in 2012, there was still something unsettled in me. There was something that I was questioning. Deep down, I was like, did I really make it? Is this what the rest of my life? It's like I had checked off all these goals. Open a business, get married, have kids, sign them up for sports, buy a house, buy a bigger house, put in a pool, put in a barbecue, decorate it so it looks like Pottery Barn. All these things, I kept going through the motions and go, gosh, I feel like there's something more. And so I came across this book and I thought, I feel like I want to be happier. I like the idea of fulfillment. It sparked an interest in me. So in 2013, I'm just going to go on a quick side note in case you don't really know our story and what happened. From me reading this book, I had a lot, right? I was pretty successful. I had achieved a lot. Successful, achievement, status, all of those words that we think make up a good life. And they were good. They were good. But looking back, that was contentment. That was not joy and lasting fulfillment. So in 2013, I would spend a lot of time camping. We didn't have that RV that's in the picture quite yet there. We had a couple other RVs before then. And so we lived in this beautiful house, but I really didn't want to be in the house that much. So Victor would work in Coronado, and I would take my RV during the week and I would camp at Silver Strand, which was at the time our drive from our house to work was about 45 minutes. But now I was camping only 10 minutes from work. I'd get to be on the beach. The kids would play in the sand. It felt so much better. So it was one little small step. I was like, you know what? It feels good because of what I read in this book. It's like, it feels really good for me to be outside, to be by the ocean. We have enough money to pay for our basic needs, food and shelter. Why not? So I spent a lot of 2013 in an RV camping, but I still had this mortgage. At the end of 2013, my husband looks at me and he's like, why do we not just live by the beach? I'm like, perfect. So we rented out our house, rented a different house by the beach, didn't use our RV quite as much in 2014, and our life looked a little different. Now, all of a sudden, instead of me having to pack up the RV and spend the week down by the beach, every morning I'd set my alarm early. I'd skate over to the bay because we lived in a place where it was really cool that on one side, it was on a little strip of land where on one side you're on the bay and one side you're on the beach. Go to the bay, watch the sunrise, skate over, check the surf. If the surf was good, I'd skate back, wake up my daughter Gabby and say, hey, let's go surfing. If it wasn't so good, I'd go for a run. It was just a really, really nice lifestyle. In addition to that, there were parks right next to our house, so our homeschooling days were spent outside mostly. We would go to yoga together, where my older kids would go with me to yoga. Victor got to do jujitsu a lot. Him and I would, sit on our deck and watch the sunset. It really was an amazing, transformative year. And the point I say with that is that this is why it doesn't have to be move into an RV. From 2013 through 2014, we just learned to prioritize the things that this book, Happier, talks about. We really got clear on what made us feel happy, what were the justifications getting in our way, and then rewiring our brain. Now, it just so happened that in 2015, the house we were renting, she wanted to sell the house. So we had to move out. And so in 2015, I happened to say to Victor, do you think that we could just live in our RV for 5 months so we could travel a little bit more? Because in 2014, we were still taking some road trips. They just weren't that long. And up until then, we had taken a ton of trips to Hawaii. We went at least once a year. And so it was kind of like this feeling of, could we do something different? I liked our trips to Hawaii. In fact, in 2014, we even did a trip to Nicaragua, and we skipped out on Christmas and did a trip to Nicaragua instead. So we were used to traveling. We were used to being outside, but I just thought it'd be nice to have a little less pressure on our road trips and go for maybe a 3-week, maybe even a 6-week. Now, remember, we had a brick and mortar, so it was hard to delegate the work, but we did. It was a hard decision. We took the steps. Everything, it's not easy is the point. I get it. It's not easy to do these things. But in 2015, my husband said what he says best, sure, dear. And so we moved into the RV thinking it was going to be for 5 months. And at the end of the 5 months, Victor said, I can't ask you to go back to a house. You're too happy. So why don't we just find campgrounds? We'll come back and work, and we'll find campgrounds for right now in San Diego and see where it goes. Well, that fall turned into me and Gabby and myself coming up with a brilliant idea to go to Europe for 6 months. I've told this story many other places, so I don't want to go too far into detail with it. But basically in 2016, we went to Costa Rica for a month, and then we turned around, landed in San Diego, and went to Europe for 6 months. We went to 16 countries. We spent every day hiking and surfing and climbing. We tent camped for part of it. We had an RV for 4 months. We budgeted. We had enough money so that we could live for 150 euros a day for 6 months. It was pretty crazy. It was pretty spectacular. We finished that year when we landed back in the States. We flew over to Hawaii to finish out that year. It was incredible. The next year we did many trips, including back to Costa Rica, a really amazing long road trip through Canada for the summer, back to Europe in the fall. 2018, we started off in Hawaii, then we went to New Zealand and Bali. Okay, 2018 comes around, and I was just done going back to San Diego. It just did not feel in alignment with what would make me happier. So we ended up in Bend, Oregon, trying to relocate so that, because at that point we still had to make money off of our business. So we thought, well, what if we had a business similar in another place? Tried Bend, it didn't work. We tried Breckenridge, Colorado for a while. We even thought we were going to transition back into a house and rented a house for a couple months, actually, months. And then it just didn't work. So we went back to San Diego in 2019. We got a new RV, a bigger RV to make it much more comfortable. Plus, in 2018, that RV that you see that says Nomads with a Purpose on it got in an accident. So it really, we needed something bigger for our family. But that year in 2019, we drove the Alaskan highway for the whole, like spent the whole summer going up to Alaska and back. Gabby and Isabel and I did the Tour du Mont Blanc. We had amazing adventures again. Then 2020 hit, like everyone. We had started that year in Hawaii for a month, only to come back to craziness. In 2020, we went to Montana, and we thought we'd get to a piece of land, we'd become homesteaders, but instantly I felt trapped. I hated it. It was not what was going to make me happier. So in 2021, we struggled to find this balance between going on road trips. We'd escaped, Montana is so gloomy and cloudy, and there's not a lot to do where we were living. So we would take trips down to St. George. Eventually, we took a long road trip out to Red River Gorge to climb in Arkansas, went through Tennessee, out to Florida. 2022 came around, and we had spent so much time in 2021 as a family practicing mindfulness. That's when we started our other blog, Making Mindfulness Fun. We had really embodied self-awareness. This is really why we have Be the Hero Academy now, is because in 2021, when we were on our property, we as a family would spend a lot of time meditating, journaling, doing yoga, breath work, working on deconstructing our programming. We had a huge transformative year. So when 2022 came around, we're like, this is it. Homesteading is not for us. We need to be back on the road. It was kind of like that was our launching off point 10 years after I read this book into a new perspective of what is a good life. I recognized a lot of the fears that were holding me back. The world had changed a lot in those few years. Okay, so coming back, that is the big impact that this book had on me. Now, did it happen overnight? No. It was a decade in the making. And there were so many wonderful wins along the way, but there were also a lot of hardships and a lot of places where I really wish I had done something differently. But when you get away from that, you can look back and go, oh man, I was so thankful to learn that lesson. Okay, so let's get into it a little bit more. A quick overview in this book. So like I said, I'm just kind of going through in the slides the summary of each part, but overall, there's going to be eight lessons in here. Chapter 1 is about his Epiphany Bridge story. Chapter 2 is about balancing the immediate desire with delayed gratification, and he teaches his hamburger model, which I think is extremely helpful in just checking and understanding where you are in your empowered versus dopamine addiction life, right? Dopamine gives us instant gratification, and we need some of that, but sometimes we have to delay that dopamine for bigger goals. And sometimes we end up just living for only bigger goals, and we forget, and we never do anything that is enjoyable for ourselves, that produces other neurotransmitters. Chapter 3 is about sense of purpose and positive emotions. Chapter 4 is the dangers of emotional bankruptcy. That is something that I see a lot in the world. Not pointing fingers, not trying to make you feel bad about it, but hey, it's not fun to be bankrupt. I've gone through an actual financial bankruptcy, but I've also, and I won't go into the story now, like Victor went through a significant emotional bankruptcy with his adrenal exhaustion, and it was hard to come back from that. So being able to value your emotions is something that I hope that this book really helps you do, because in the end, happiness is about emotions. It's not about finances. Chapter 5, goal setting, my favorite part. Chapter 6, how to help you be both happy and successful. Okay. Chapter 4 is finding work that is meaningful and pleasurable. And chapter 8, I guess that's really my favorite. I like goal setting, but really comes down to relationships and unconditional love. And you know who the most important person to love is? Yourself. So I really hope that this book helps you with that. We're also going to have, he takes you through 7 different meditations. Meditation 1 is about happiness, self-interest, and benevolence. Meditation 2 is happiness boosters. Meditation 3 is genetics and programming. Meditation 4 is internal limitations, otherwise known as self-limiting beliefs. Meditation 5 is the big question. Meditation 6 is overscheduled. Meditation 7 is the happiness revolution. Okay, I think all of this plays a big role in who you want to become. The whole sum total. You can't take just one piece of it without integrating the entire big picture. You can't just look at the tree, you have to look at the forest. And when you can bring all of these elements together, you can create a sense of wholeness. And it's only from that sense of wholeness that we can really truly be happy, lead meaningful, fulfilling lives, and create amazing relationships. Okay, so you click to the next lesson and we'll begin in lesson 1.